Smiling Friends has been running for 2 seasons on Adult Swim now, and surprisingly, despite it only being on the air for 3 years, not including the pilot, and only having 17 episodes, there's a lot of obscure and interesting facts and pieces of trivia that relate to the series. And I realised that I know way too much about Smiling Friends, so I decided to put my knowledge to some good use and create this massive Smiling Friends iceberg for you to enjoy. I'm sure you all know how an iceberg works. The further you go down, the more obscure the entries on here get. And trust me, some of these are really obscure. So obscure in fact that I've literally seen no one else talk about some of the later entries in this iceberg. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the first layer of the iceberg. Critters. Critters are one of the species of intelligent life in the Smiling Friends universe. There's tons of different critters and they come in many shapes, colours and sizes. And I don't know how to tell you what is a critter and what isn't, but you'll know one when you see one. So out of the Smiling Friends, Charlie, Pim, Allan and Glep are all critters, and then Mr. Boss is a human. Other species in the Smiling Friends universe are humans, demons and then other, which includes things like aliens. Also, weirdly, critters don't always wear clothes. Like, Pim and Charlie do, whereas Glep and Allan don't. I think the reason for this is that, Pim and Charlie both canonically have penises, so they'd need to cover up for obvious reasons. However, we see Glep and Allan practically naked and they have no genitals of any kind. And since they don't have genitals, there's really nothing to cover up and no reason to wear clothes. Unless it's for a special occasion, since both Glep and Allan wear suits at Mrs. Boss's wedding and they wear clothes for the Brazil trip. Smiling Friends. This entry refers to 2 things. The first being the actual show itself, which definitely doesn't need an introduction, but hey, this is layer 1 of the iceberg, so the information here is pretty basic. And the second is the in-universe charity itself. Smiling Friends is a charity with the goal of making their clients smile by any means necessary. The Smiling Friends HQ is a big old smiley face, and the car also has the same smiley face on top of it. Misleading descriptions. If you watch the show somewhere like HBO Max or just looked at the descriptions for episodes on sites like IMDb, you may have noticed that the descriptions for certain episodes don't have anything to do with the episodes themselves, and hell, sometimes the titles themselves are misleading. Like the episode Pim Finally Turns Green, where Pim does not turn green. The episodes with misleading descriptions are Charlie, Pim and Bill vs the Alien, where the description is the plot for the 2011 movie Mars Needs Moms, except it has Pim as the main character. Pim Finally Turns Green, which talks about how Pim turns green, apparently from eating an ancient artifact. The Smiling Friends go to Brazil, which we'll get into. And whilst technically not really misleading, the description for the Boss Finds Love just says how the episode is super scary. So scary in fact that they legally can't say what happens. And technically I guess Charlie dies and doesn't come back has a misleading title since he does come back. Wait, before we continue, this video is sponsored by Aura. Do you ever get spam calls? I know I do. I'm not joking, I literally got one as I was recording this video. I have a video of it. Hello. I don't know what the point of them calling was, all they said was hello, ni hao, then hung up. But still, it was annoying and a waste of my time. And this isn't just a one-time occurrence, but wouldn't it be great if this could just stop happening? Well, that's where Aura comes in. Aura offers a data broker opt-out service, which basically means they'll help remove your personal info, things like full names, home addresses, and phone numbers, from data brokers and people search sites that may be selling it. And if spam callers can't get your phone number from these sites, then they can't call you. Aura will also alert you if your personal info gets leaked in any kind of data breach. And Aura also has a VPN that encrypts your internet connection so you can browse the internet safely, along with giving you access to more than 100 different locations. But that's not all. They also have a secure password manager, an antivirus that can protect you from viruses and spyware and all that bad stuff, and you get all of this for one affordable price. How great is that? And I've got a great deal for you. If you go to my link, aura.com/OscarByrne, you'll get your first 2 weeks completely free. So just click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen to start protecting you and your personal data. Thanks to Aura for sponsoring, and now back to the video. Brazil Special. So the first season of Smiling Friends ended on January 10th, 2022. It also technically started on January 10th, 2022. And everyone thought this was it until season 2. Until Adult Swim announced that we'd be getting a brand new episode of Smiling Friends, and a special episode at that. Because in this episode, our favourite group of critters would be going to Brazil. The description for the episode reads, "The Smiling Friends finally get to relax in a beautiful Brazilian beach town. Pim works on his novel, Charlie binged a load of torrent movies on his portable hard drive, Allan and Glep enjoyed some long-awaited chill-out time at the beach. The episode was set to premiere at 11:30 PM on August 6, 2022 on Adult Swim, and so everyone gathered around their televisions all excited to see what shenanigans these silly little guys can get up to in Brazil. Only for the episode to air and be 11 minutes of the smiling friends in a Brazilian airport realizing no one booked a hotel, and the entire thing is just one uncut shot. This was all an epic troll, and originally was set to premiere on April Fool's Day 2022 before being pushed back for unknown reasons. Many people were pissed, and many people also found it funny. Surprisingly, this is still a pretty good episode, even though it is just them arguing in an airport for 11 minutes. Blackface. The line, "Whoa, is that fucking blackface dude?" originates from the episode of Silly Halloween Special, when the guests at the Halloween party think the forest demon is doing blackface, and this line has been posted online whenever someone appears to be doing something that could be perceived as blackface. If you've been on the Smiling Friends subreddit prior to the blackface post ban, you'd see countless posts of people with face paint or some other kind of potential blackface thing being posted with the caption, "Whoa, is that fucking blackface?" Specials. Specials, every show has them, and Smiling Friends is no different. So I already mentioned the Brazil special, but they've also had 2 Halloween specials and 2 Christmas specials. Interestingly, the Halloween special is the 4th in both the seasons, and the Christmas one is the 8th in both the seasons. Also, the Smiling Friends specials have never aired when they're supposed to. Since all of season 1 premiered in one day, the season 1 Halloween and Christmas specials both aired in January. Then, as previously mentioned, the Brazil special was meant to air on April Fool's Day, but ended up releasing in August. Then the second Halloween special, The Boss Finds Love, aired in May, and the second Christmas special, Pim Finally Turns Green, aired in June. Glep's tablet. Throughout Smiling Friends, you may have noticed in the break room, Glep is usually sitting on a beanbag doing something. Could be sleeping, could be a Rubik's Cube, but sometimes he's on a tablet watching stuff. He's usually watching some weird little video. Anyway, here's a list of the stuff he looks at. In the pilot episode, Glep can be seen watching a video of a man in a fedora. This is actually a YouTube video titled "What a Lovely Day," uploaded on December 17th, 2016 by Lucas the Magnificent, who will come back later on the Iceberg. In Shrimp's Odyssey, Glep appears to be looking at some type of graph. Not actually on a tablet, but a phone this time. In Our Allan Adventure, Glep appears to be watching a video of a shirtless man going insane, and a man preparing meat. Then in Pim Finally Turns Green, he is seen watching some weird video of people dressed as Santa doing some wacky stuff. Adult Swim. Adult Swim began as a simple programming block on Cartoon Network that originally began airing on September 2nd, 2001. It's essentially content targeted towards an older demographic than Cartoon Network, which was targeted towards kids. It airs both pre-existing content and original content. Anyway, Adult Swim was incredibly successful and is now more than just a blog, being a big brand itself, and airs as more than half the network, and is where Smiling Friends episodes air, since Smiling Friends is an Adult Swim original. Oni Plays. Oni Plays is a gaming channel run by Chris O'Neill, who is an animator, music producer, and game developer. You've probably seen one of Chris's animations, as he has another channel called OniNG, which has many videos with tens of millions of views. Anyway, the reason that this is on this iceberg is that Chris is friends with Zach Hadel, who, as you may know, is one of the Smiling Friends creators, so Zach appears in many Oni Plays videos. And also, Michael Cusack, the other Smiling Friends creator, has appeared in some videos as well. If you watch some of these videos, you may notice that some of the bits on Oni Plays are actually the origin points for what would eventually become jokes on Smiling Friends. Chris O'Neill has also done work on Smiling Friends, producing the end credits theme, as well as voicing Small Moo, the guy who misses his daughter's wedding.
I missed my daughter's wedding for this.
And Yeti. He also did various other pieces of work for the show. Charlie's uncle. Throughout the series, you'll notice that Charlie's uncle is brought up a lot, but we never actually see him. From what we know, he's a pretty quirky fella to say the least. Here's everything we know about Charlie's uncle from what has been said in the show. 1. He loves his cars. 2. He killed an entire family in a gruesome drunk driving accident, but it was all okay because he gave away a huge check. 3. He also rammed his car into a crowd of people and had to take sleeping pills following the event, likely because of the guilt. 4. He used to be in a band called the Red Gapers where he played the theremin. 5. He knew Bill Nye the Science Guy. And 6, and also most interestingly, Charlie's uncle owns Tora the android from the video I Feel Fantastic. We don't know if his uncle made her or if he just got her some other way, but that's just an interesting piece of Smiling Friends lore. Look, Pim. In the episode Desmond's Big Day Out, when Pim and Charlie visit Desmond, Charlie delivers the iconic line,
"Look, Pim, I know it's our job to help this guy and everything, but I think this guy's a lost cause. He's obviously made up his mind. Why don't we just cut our losses and get out of here?"
This line then became a meme where Pim and Charlie were placed into various different scenarios like the ones on screen. Merch. Smiling Friends is quite a popular show, and so it's quite surprising that there's not a whole lot of merch for the show. I mean, compared to other Adult Swim shows like Rick and Morty, which, like, holy crap, there's so much Rick and Morty shit. But to be fair, it's still new, technically only officially releasing in 2022, so there'll hopefully be more merch in the future. But for now, we have the DVD and Blu-ray of Season 1, and the Glep plushies, which are normal Glep, and then Glep in a Christmas hat, along with shirts and cushions and various other things, which I'm pretty sure work in a similar way to places like Spreadshirt, where these aren't in stock, but instead they will be printed when someone orders one. There's also a Mr. Frog pin from San Diego Comic Con 2024. Gwimbly Gaslighting. The Season 2 premiere episode, Gwimbly Definitive Remastered Enhanced Extended Edition DX4K Anniversary Director's Cut, released April 1st, 2024, and introduced the world to Gwimbly, who in the Smiling Friends universe is a video game character from the late 90s who had 3D platformer games, where you'd have to collect cream corn. You know, he's kind of based off games like Gex or Banjo-Kazooie. Following the release of this episode, Gwimbly took the internet by storm, and people began acting as if Gwimbly was really a late 90s platformer, posting about how they loved the games and posting pictures of their old copies of the Gwimbly games, along with fan art and even actual gameplay. This massive amount of content then resulted in people not in the Smiling Friends fandom being recommended this content, and obviously if you have no idea what Smiling Friends is, you'd think, oh, this is just some old game I've never heard of. Some people weren't trying to convince people Gwimbly was real, intentionally, and other people were, but either way, it's pretty funny that there's probably still someone out there in this very moment who is unaware that Gwimbly is merely a Smiling Friends character. Glep's age/info. In the Season 2 episode Mr. President, Glep votes for Mr. Frog to become president, and this results in him being completely doxxed on TV. From this we learn quite a few interesting things about Glep. So he was born on the 9th of July 329, he lives in Pennsylvania, he is 1 foot 6 inches, he weighs 8 pounds, and his eye colour, sex, and hair colour are all green. So interesting stuff. Zach and Michael. Zach Hadel and Michael Cusack are the two creators of Smiling Friends. Zach Hadel, also known as Psychic Pebbles, was born on March 4th, 1993, and had been making content on the internet for years prior to Smiling Friends, as well as appearing on OnlyPlays, as was previously mentioned. Along with writing and directing, he also voices some characters in Smiling Friends, being Glep and Charlie, DJ Spit, Mip, Gwimbly, Satan, and many others that appear throughout the series. Michael Cusack was born October 25th, 1990, and like Zach, he too had been creating content online for years prior to Smiling Friends. In the show, he voices Pim, Allan, Mr. Frog, the Bliblies, James, and many others. Bumps. Bumps/bumpers are the things that air on the channel between commercials and shows. Adult Swim have many bumpers that feature various characters and things from shows. Or well, kinda just anything really. There's no real way to describe them other than kinda just anything really. And also the Adult Swim logo at the end, which shows what channel you're watching. And Smiling Friends has many of these bumpers. You've probably seen some if you watch Smiling Friends on Adult Swim. And luckily for us, since Smiling Friends is such a new show, all its bumps are online and not lost unlike some older shows. I'm playing some on screen right now, and I'll go over the most interesting. So the first I'll mention is these three made by Lee Hardcastle, that are based off the 3 original Wallace and Gromit short films. So this first one is based off A Grand Day Out, and features Pim and Charlie on the moon using a legally distinct version of Cooker to beat up aliens, then escaping on a rocket ship. The second is based off The Wrong Trousers, and features Pim and Charlie at the zoo looking at the penguins, when Charlie throws the iconic red glove onto Feathers McGraw, which makes him evil, and he steals a gun and points it at them. So, all of this was Charlie's fault. And finally, there's one based off A Close Shave, where Pim and Charlie help a wool shop by using a sheep shave machine to shear a sheep. Next one I'll mention is Glep hitting a silly little jig. There's also a cool one with this Smiling Friends themed pinball machine, one where Pim goes diving but gets electrocuted by a light which burns the Adult Swim logo into his head, one where Charlie falls down a toilet, and also many, many others. Season 1 premiere. Smiling Friends episodes 2 and 3 were set to premiere at midnight on January 9th, 2022, so technically January 10th, 2022. And 2 brand new episodes did air, being Mr. Frog and Shrimp's Odyssey. But, surprise, after the episodes aired, Adult Swim actually aired the next episode without announcing it, then the next, until they had aired the entire first season, not including the Brazil special. All in one night. They then aired American Dad and Rick and Morty before they aired the entire season again. Now, was this a good idea? Maybe? I mean, it might have affected ratings since people would have planned around the fact that there'd be 2 new episodes and they might have just gone to bed at some point during the premiere. I mean, you can see the numbers go down by 50,000 after episode 3 ends and as the night goes on. And also, when season 2 premiered, the hype lasted much longer since it took about 2 months to fully air, not counting the April 1st premiere. And everyone was still hyped for new episodes for those 2 months. But here, the hype didn't last as long because it only took 1 day for all the episodes to come out. April Fool's 2024. On March 24th, 2024, Adult Swim posted this video that announced that Smiling Friends would be returning this Sunday at midnight. The response to this was two things. The first was just, hell yeah, more Smiling Friends. The second was people who looked at the calendar and saw the date would be April 1st. Given Adult Swim's history with April Fools, I have a video on that by the way, people were reasonably skeptical about whether or not we'd actually be getting a new episode. Anyway, checking the schedule did show that Smiling Friends was airing on April 1st, but no new episode titles were revealed here. Just Mr. Frog, Shrimp's Odyssey, and Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back on twice. But then April 1st rolled around and Adult Swim first aired the episode Mr. Frog, but with a twist. The entire thing had been recreated using puppets, like every shot was redone with sets and puppets, so that's a whole lot of effort. But then they aired Shrimp's Odyssey, which was also redone, this time with sock puppets, and then they aired Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, but done with paper mache. But then, finally, after this, they aired the first episode of Season 2 and announced that the rest of the season would begin on May 12, 2024. Then they aired the episode again and the free puppet versions again, but in reverse order. HBO Max. HBO Max, or just Max, is a streaming service owned by Warner Bros. Discovery. It features lots of Adult Swim and Cartoon Network content, for now at least, which does include Smiling Friends. When Season 2 was premiering, the episodes would be available the next day on Max after they'd premiered on Adult Swim. Also, Smiling Friends was the #1 show on Max for a while during Season 2. Cameos. Since Zach and Michael both got their starts online, they know quite a lot of internet figures, and they give lots of them cameos in Smiling Friends. You've got Tom Fulp, the creator of Newgrounds, voicing Alpha in Desmond's Big Day Out, Finn Wolfhard as Guy and Wall, and Nick Wolfhard as Graham Nelly in the same episode. Chills saying number 15.
Number 15. Could I get the number 15?
In Shrimp's Odyssey, who is the guy behind the iconic Burger King Footlights clip. David Firth, the creator of Salad Fingers, as Shrimp in the same episode. He's also in Season 2 as Fillmore. You've also got Chris O'Neill, Harry Partridge, and Joshua Tomar as various characters. Gilbert Gottfried as God, Joel Harver as Doug, who is animated in his style, Dana Snyder as Rotten the Snowman, Doug Walker / the Nostalgia Critic as Daniel the Demon Slayer, and James Rolfe / the Angry Video Game Nerd briefly in this scene. See? There. In Loving Memory. At the end of the credits in each episode, there's an In Loving Memory screen which is dedicated to random people who don't exist. So we've got Jonathan Q. Shrimpling, who passed away in 2017 at the old age of 13, Quinton the Animal Gwillingto, who died in 1994 at the age of 22, Smallmoo, who died shortly after he was made the 5th Smiling Friend in 2022 at age 36, XL_percentage QZ9*4, who died in 2001 at an age that we don't know. Simon S. Solly, who we see die in episode 5, who died in 2022 at age 77. Dr. Terence Nimbalon II, who died in 2012 at age 54. Sir Oliver Peanut, who died in 1944 at age 52. Lieutenant Damien Javer Kawap, who dies in 2025 at age 56, which is sometime this year. This episode aired back in 2022, so he wasn't dead yet, but he's gonna die sometime this year. Buddy, if you're watching this, look out. Spyron Gersh Blom, who died in 2022 at age 22, Sick Little Freak, who died in 2023 at age 35, our darling daughter and mother of two, Smelina, from Arizona, who died in 2016 at age 30, Elmer Edgar E. Evans, who died in 1990 at the old age of 101, the California Silly Billy Sex Pest, who is still alive. I mean, of all these people, why does the California Silly Billy Sex Pest have to be the one that's still alive? That's probably the one I least want alive. This looks like some analog horror creature. The two mysterious lovers inviting you to their secret fort, who both died in 2024 at ages 33 and 29. Xenor, the mentally ill alien, who died in 2024 at the old age of 5,595. Scribbity D Scribbity Doo, who died at 2015 at age 12. And the average Smiling Friends fan, who died the same year he was born, 1995 at age 0. Exposed nerve ending. In the episode Shrimp's Odyssey, Pym states that the little hair-like thing on his head is actually an exposed nerve ending, probably why he screamed so loud when Mr. Frog yanked it. Shrimp's Funko Pops. In the background of Shrimp's room, we can see he has some epic figures and Funko Pops, being Mr. Frog, Master Chief, Squirtle, what could be Jonesy, who is also an action figure, and 3 others that could be actual characters, but I can't figure out what they are. He's also got an action figure of Peely from Fortnite, so good for him. Post-credit scenes. Certain episodes of Smiling Friends have silly little post-credit scenes, so if you turn the episodes off after the end of the episode, you'll have missed out on these. Anyway, in Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty, the Sentry-esque asks to be buried in China, which Charlie responds with,
"Oh yeah, we will definitely go to China to bury you, man."
The fact he says it so sarcastically is even funnier because the post-credit scene is them burying him in China. Enchanted Forest shows Charlie seriously ill from Mip's potion. Then every single season 2 episode had a post-credit scene. First is one showing James crying in his apartment over Charlie. Second is President Jimble chilling on a beach. Third is Alan's landlord coming back to life in the morgue. Fourth is Mr. Boss and Satan arguing over land in hell, since Mr. Boss owns 1/4 of hell after Brittany's death. Fifth shows Mr. Boss stuck as a dog. Sixth shows Duncan and Fillmore in jail. Seventh shows Tyler and Charlie in a bar. And eighth is Charlie and Pym talking about if rotten is the whole ocean or just that wave or the earth before he eats a ship and makes a big ol' wave. Psychic Pebbles. Psychic Pebbles is Zach's online alias. He has a Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook, Twitch, Newgrounds, Blue Sky, Threads, and SoundCloud. His YouTube channel hasn't been uploaded to since September 2020, but there's a chance he might upload to it again one day. And that concludes Layer 1. On to Layer 2, I guess.
Ew, ew, ew.
DVD and Blu-ray. Alright, here we go, this is my bread and butter. So, Season 1 of Smiling Friends released onto DVD and Blu-ray on August 29th, 2023, just over a year after the final one had aired. The release contains the episodes quote-unquote uncensored, or so it says. If you actually watch it, you'll notice episodes 1, 8 and 9 are still censored. Now, there's no version of episode 1 uncensored, so that kinda makes sense, but then why are 8 and 9 censored? Did they just drag the wrong file on here? It says uncensored on the box, like come on guys. Anyway, it also comes with a bonus commentary track done by Zach and Michael and contains the episodes in English, Spanish and French. As of right now, there has been no announcement for Season 2's release. However, this one released a year after the last episode of Season 1, so if it were to happen, it probably won't happen yet. Podcasts. This entry is referring to the various podcasts that both Zach and Michael have been on to talk about Smiling Friends, amongst other things. Most notable of which is The Great Unknown, which is where a lot of this information and lots of these entries come from. Bill Nye Gaslighting. In the episode Pym Finally Turns Green, Charlie gets Bill Nye the Science Guy to try and explain the horrifying concept of death to Rotten the Snowman. As he sings his Death Isn't Scary song, he hits some power lines and gets electrocuted. His hot air balloon is set on fire and he burns and dies. Following this, whenever the actual Bill Nye is brought up on somewhere like Twitter, someone always replies or quote retweets saying something along the lines of, "Didn't he die in a hot air balloon crash?" Which obviously, if that tweet is shown to someone who hasn't seen Smiling Friends, they'll be like, "What? Bill Nye the freaking Science Guy died?" And then they'll probably Google it and realize, oh, it's a Smiling Friends bit. Chills. Chills was briefly mentioned in the cameo section, but essentially he's a YouTuber who makes videos like 30 scary videos that defy explanation, 11 scariest things caught by drones. They're basically just like list of like spooky things. He's the guy behind such classic memes as,
"Honestly, if I saw that damn thing in my living room, I'd stomp on it until it was a small brown stain."
which Zach loves, but it's literally a clip from his podcast, and
Number 15. Burger King foot lettuce. The last thing you'd want in your Burger King burger is someone's foot fungus.
he has a very unique voice, and these videos are funny because of how serious he says them. He's talking about the guy standing in lettuce at Burger King like it's a murder case with super spooky music. This Burger King foot lettuce meme is the most notable for this entry, as the meme was massive and Chills got a cameo as this guy in the cafe from Shrimp's Odyssey, who orders the number 15. You know, number 15, like number 15 Burger King foot lettuce. Chills has also been mentioned numerous times on Only Plays in the past. Charlie's eyes. Charlie's eyes are kinda weird, because when we see them from either side, he has 2 eyes, but this isn't like a Peppa Pig situation where Charlie has 4 eyes, 2 on each side. He only has 2 eyes as we see when he faces forward, but he always has 2 facing the audience. So do Charlie's eyes move to either side, or are they always on the front with 1 on each side of his nose? Is it like just the angle or something? I don't know, and I've seen no one mention it, so I'm mentioning it here. Twitter. This entry is referring to the official Smiling Friends Twitter account, @SmilingFriends. It shares behind the scenes information and pictures, you know, things like early designs, along with just promoting the show and its merch, and sharing fan art. Glep can talk. Throughout Smiling Friends, we only ever hear Glep speak in a language called Wingon, which sounds like this. But interestingly, in Season 1 episode Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, at the very end we see an older Glep who told the story of the episode to his grandson, speaking in English. So could Glep speak English the entire time, or did he just learn later in life? Well, when you think about it, Glep is able to communicate to the others, and they communicate to him. So since Glep speaks Wingon and everyone else speaks English, it must mean Glep knows English and everyone else knows Wingon. For example, in the pilot episode, Allan says to Glep,
Glep, did you take a paperclip?
to which Glep responds in Wingon, and Allan says,
I'm not accusing you, I'm simply asking.
so Glep understood Allan and responded accordingly, and Allan understood Glep and responded accordingly. So why don't they either both speak English or both speak Wingon? Well, it's probably because Zach and Michael just like Glep's funny little voice. Surrounding buildings. There's many buildings surrounding the Smiling Friends headquarters. These are Ron's Deli, an asylum, a toilet emporium, and an antique store. And also, across the road, we can see a building called Hot Bread. But interestingly, the buildings on this side of the road disappear in a silly Halloween special to make room for the forest. They stole the fries. In the Brazil special, whilst they're arguing in the restaurant, they order a small bowl of fries for the table, which Glep eats as they argue. And when they finally decide to go home, they just walk away and don't pay for the fries. And remember, this episode was all one shot, so they couldn't have done it off camera. This is actually mentioned in the commentary of the episode on the DVD and Blu-ray, and Michael states that Pim probably remembered 2 minutes after the episode ended and went back and paid. Or alternatively, this.
I feel like Pim probably remembered like 2 minutes after the episode ends and just goes, oh my gosh,
He runs back.
oh my god, we didn't pay for that stuff.
Yep.
And then he ran back.
And
and
I think Troy grabs by the shirt and goes, Pim.
we could get away
Pim,
with it.
I know we didn't. That was on purpose, Pim. Keep moving.
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I don't know if I've got the moral spirit in me to do that. I think I've got to go back and pay.
Pim, and then that's what happened. He says, Pim, and then Al grabs the other and goes, Alan,
He says, shut up, Pim, or I'll eat you. I will put you in my mouth and I'll chew you
He
up.
takes a little dagger and
Pim says, this is not the Ellen I know, Ellen.
cuts carves a big piece of Pim out like
Pim runs
pie.
Pim runs in the most animated run cycle ever
Because
towards the exit.
at that point he knows he's dying. At that point it's fight or flight. It's not even like
Charlie says, seize him!
grab him! And the
people
whole
come out
airport
of-
turns on Pim.
There's a big, massive chase scene where Pim's running through Brazil.
And all Brazil is chasing. That was the original episode we're gonna do. Is all Brazil chases Pim through the fucking streets, and then he meets the soccer ball boy who saves him. That's like the episode.
So yeah, I guess that's what happened. Charlie killed Smallmoo. A case that never sat right with me. At the end of the episode Shrimp's Odyssey, Smallmoo comes in to cheer up Pim. Charlie is visibly, at the very least, angry at Smallmoo being there and clearly doesn't like the news that he's the 5th Smiling Friend. We then see him walk off camera and the credits play. Then, the episode is in loving memory of Smallmoo. But wait, look at the picture. He has bruises over him, almost like he was killed by someone. He didn't have those before, so the theory goes that Charlie killed Smallmoo because he didn't want him to be the 5th Smiling Friend, and the only way to stop it was to kill him. Is this true? Who knows, probably. April Fool's 2020. April Fool's 2020 was the day that Smiling Friends was first shown to the world. Adult Swim aired the pilot episode, mostly to see what the public thought of it, as at the time, they hadn't ordered the full season, and since the response was positive, they ordered the first full season. Pim is multilingual. Something you might have noticed from watching the show is that Pim is multilingual. Firstly and obviously he speaks English, and since he's able to communicate with Glep, this also confirms that he speaks Wingon, and in the season 2 episode The Magical Red Jewel, aka Tyler Gets Fired, he confirms that he can speak Spanish, and in the episode Brothers Ek, both him and Charlie speak Spanish so that Professor Psychotic can't understand them, but it turns out he speaks Spanish too. And then in the episode The Boss Finds Love, he's able to read the book about the Filia Diabolus demon, which is actually written in Latin. So that's 5 confirmed languages that Pim is able to understand. Nostalgia Critic. Doug Walker, aka The Nostalgia Critic, is a YouTuber who has been around for years. He makes review content for various pieces of media and has the iconic intro,
"Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to."
He's been mentioned numerous times on Oni Plays and was given a cameo as Daniel the Demon Slayer in the episode The Boss Finds Love, where he says,
"Hello, I'm Daniel the Demon Slayer. I slay demons so you don't have to."
A very clear reference to the Nostalgia Critic's iconic intro. AI 2023. For 2023's April Fool's prank, Adult Swim let an AI run the network, and they had a clip from the episode Frowning Friends, except tampered with by AI. The episode looks horrifying, and the audio had also been tampered with.
Time and energy it would take to become a nymph, so yes.
The network then jumps back in about a minute later and says that it got out of hand, and then they apologise. Bootleg merch. If you ever looked on sites like eBay and Amazon and, God forbid, AliExpress for Smiling Friends merch, you'll probably have noticed the tons of bootleg merch. You've obviously got your Redbubble bootleg shirts with just random designs and pictures from the show on them, and more interestingly, plushies. There's so many listings for bootleg Smiling Friends plushies, and there's so many characters. You got Pim, Charlie, Allan Glep, Mr. Frog, and DJ Spit. Interestingly, the Charlie plush actually has 4 eyes, and these plushies don't just exist online, as some people have seen them being sold in stores and on stalls in the actual real world. Why the fuck is Charlie so wide? Here's one of Pim from Reddit, and we can see he has a tag that says Smile Pals Purple Critter, so I guess this is legally distinct enough. Probably not though, right? Because that's literally just Pim's exact design. Adult Swim, can we get official plushies of Charlie, Allan, Pim, and other characters? I mean, the Glep one sold well, so why not? David Firth. Again, David Firth was mentioned briefly in the cameo section. He's the creator of the web series Salad Fingers and began making it in 2004. In the episode Shrimp's Odyssey, he voices Shrimp, and then in Charlie, Pim, and Bill vs. the Alien, he voices Fillmore. Finn Wolfhard. Finn Wolfhard appears as Guy and Wall in the pilot episode. Prior to the release of the episode, he also appeared on an episode of Zach's podcast along with Nick Wolfhard. Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried plays God in the episode Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back. Gilbert Gottfried is God, like Gilbert Gottfried. He sadly passed away only a few months after the episode aired, which makes Smiling Friends the last thing he starred in that released during his lifetime. Future episode teasers. Season 2 features many previews for episodes that would release later in the season. Firstly, in the first episode of the season, when Glep and Charlie are chilling in the break room prior to James's arrival, Charlie is browsing a streaming service on the TV, and some of the content appears to be teasers for future episodes, and also callbacks to previous ones. The shows on there are Earth's Craziest Crap, Large Mouse Hour, so that just happened, with the poster being an explosion, Jimble's Empire of Dirt, which is a teaser for the following episode where President Jimble appears, The Sniffer Equation, Question Mark, which appears to be the show Pim was showing Charlie at the very start of the pilot episode, Cool Sophia, brackets interesting, which appears to be a blue sphere, The Death of Salty, obviously being a reference to the season 1 episode Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty, in which Salty dies, UFO Sightings, which has Duncan and Fillmore on the poster and is clearly supposed to be a reference to the future episode Charlie, Pim and Bill vs. the Alien, Destruction of the Forest, a reference to the Enchanted Forest, The Mysterious Spamtopia, which is teasing the upcoming episode The Magical Red Jewel, aka Tyler Gets Fired, in which they visit Spamtopia, The Little Norp That Could, which is clearly a reference to The Little Engine That Could, Mum's Room, which strangely uses the English spelling of mum instead of the American spelling, the Ooglies, who are these happy guys, and the Smooglies, who are these pissed off guys, and we don't have titles for the next road down, but we can see posters for things on Charlie's Continue Watching. So we got the Mr. Frog Show, something where Bliblies are being destroyed by tanks, which potentially is a show about Desmond and a reference to the pilot, a blue guy with a brain, the show of the 2 almost naked 3D guys fighting over ham, which is later seen in episode 5 of season 2, so it's yet another teaser, and a green guy looking into a hole at a fire. There's more throughout the season as well, like how a video from Professor Psychotic about his homunculus egg project can be seen in the episode The Boss Finds Love when they check out Daniel the Demon Slayer's video, which was the episode before he appears. And then in Brother's Egg, Professor Psychotic has a Bill Nye the Science Guy poster in his room. Bill Nye later appeared in the season 2 finale Pim Finally Turns Green. Kissing. There's lots of random kissing in Smiling Friends, lots from Pim, and that seems to be just part of his character. You know, he kisses Desmond, he kisses his dad, he kisses a bird, but there's a lot more just random kissing from just random characters, like when Mr. Boss just kisses Oscar in Spamtopia, or when Salty kisses Salt. It seems to just be a silly little running gag. Joel Harver. Joel Harver is a Canadian YouTuber and filmmaker with a unique rotoscope animation style. He helped with the episode Brother's Egg and animated and voiced Doug. He also animated the fight scene at the end between Doug and Professor Psychotic, all in his unique style. Cusack Creatures. Cusack Creatures is the name of Michael's YouTube channel and also a website where he sells Cusack Creatures merch. He's posted many silly little animations to the Cusack Creatures channel, and most recently released a Christmas album. There's also a Cusack Creatures Twitter account. And so that was layer 2. Layer 3, here we go.
I got Smiling Friends! Smiling Friends! Oh, yes!
Dubs. Like most shows, Smiling Friends has been dubbed into various languages. Dubbing is essentially when a show's audio is translated into different languages. So Smiling Friends was dubbed into French, German, Portuguese, and Spanish Latin American, and Spanish Spain. Also, the Spanish dub voice actors for Pim and Charlie voice them in the scene where they speak Spanish so that Professor Psychotic can't understand them. And I know what you're thinking, and I have sad news. This scene isn't done by Zach and Michael in the Spanish dub.
Sí. ¿Podrías darnos un segundo? Pim, hablemos aquí para que él no pueda escucharnos.
Pero qué bien pensado, Charlie.
El problema de este mente es con su hermano, no el crear un homúnculo de un huevo.
Eso digo. ¿Qué tal si trato de convencer a su hermano?
Which doesn't really make sense because the joke was that they started speaking Spanish, but now there's no joke there. And also, why would they speak Spanish so that Professor Psychotic can't understand them if they all spoke Spanish anyway? It'd be like if in the original version, Pim and Charlie turned away and were like, okay, we're going to speak English now so that Professor Psychotic can't understand us. Also, interestingly, in the Portuguese and Latin American Spanish dubs, Glep is dubbed, despite speaking in Wingon. Here's what it sounds like if you're wondering. Smiling Friends also has subtitles in Bulgarian, Croatian, Czech, Danish, Dutch, Finnish, Hungarian, Macedonian, Norwegian, Polish, Portuguese, Portugal, Romanian, Serbian, Slovene, Swedish and Slovak. Pim was green. So originally, Pim was intended to be green, which is referenced in the title of Season 2 Episode 8, Pim Finally Turns Green. The reason it was changed is because Charlie was yellow, and with Pim being green, they kinda looked like buggers or puke. So they changed him to pink, which I think is much better, but also I'm used to it now, so. Uncensored Mr. Frog. So you probably remember in the episode Mr. Frog goes on Jimmy Fallon and says,
the whole ordeal, like working on your show.
Probably working with all those filthy.
But it's censored in the episode. So what did he actually say? Well, it was revealed on the Create Unknown podcast that the uncensored audio is actually just Michael going sss, sss, because of the fact they needed the S sound at the end of the bleep. But that's what it actually is in real life. But what does it mean? Well, Zach states it is a Rorschach test. You know, like those little things with weird shapes, where you have to identify a shape, where Mr. Frog said, whatever the worst thing you can possibly think of, you have to fill in the blank yourself, and that's what he said. Bong/replacing Rick and Morty. There's this joke that Smiling Friends is going to replace Rick and Morty as Adult Swim's cash cow on all those like bootleg Rick and Morty bongs and rolling trays with the epic art of Rick and Morty being high are going to be replaced with Smiling Friends bongs and rolling trays. As of right now, Rick and Morty is still the cash cow. Like, did you know how many fucking Rick and Morty Funko Pops there are? Over 100. Jesus Christ. As of yet, I've also never seen a Smiling Friends bong or rolling tray that wasn't like handmade by a fan. I mean one being sold in a store. Granted, I'm not exactly in the market for like epic bongs, but sometimes I see stores that sell them, and hell, if I saw one with Pim and Charlie on it, I might just buy it and put it on the mantelpiece as a talking piece, you know? DJ Spit's pubes. Originally, DJ Spit was supposed to have pubic hair sticking out of his pants. It was fully animated, but then the Fun Police, also known as Standards and Practices, who are the people who decide what you can and can't air on TV, decided that this was far too inappropriate to air, and they were made to cut it. Well, actually one person was made to go frame by frame and remove the pubes. Zach stated he wanted to credit them as pube remover in the credits, but there wasn't enough time left to do so. Also, the full uncensored version is out there on the internet. Meep. Meep is a recurring word throughout the series. It's a brand amongst other things. So there's Diet Dr. Meep, and presumably regular Dr. Meep, a parody of Dr. Pepper. There's also the Meep Foundation, which Mr. Frog donates a giant check to in the episode Mr. Frog. The cafe Pim visits in Shrimp's Odyssey is at 153 Meep Boulevard. The delivery guy who gives Satan his food in Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back is wearing a Meep Eats uniform, which is a parody of Uber Eats. Meep County is also a place in Pennsylvania in Smiling Friends. Glep is also seen to be eating Meepos, and Meep is written on the menu board in Salties. There's also many more examples that I didn't cover. Basically, Meep appears a lot. So it seems to just be a recurring word Zach and Michael throw into random parts of the show. Episode 1 Uncensored. I mentioned this earlier, but every episode of Smiling Friends is available uncensored on HBO Max, except for the pilot episode, which for whatever reason has never been released uncensored. I assume Adult Swim has an uncensored cut somewhere, but also if they do, why haven't they released it? Maybe there was never an uncensored cut. Also, there has to be, right? Like, they wouldn't make it censored. It'd surely be easier to censor it after it's all animated and lip-synced. We do have a single clip of the pilot uncensored, which comes from Brendan Cofield recording his lines for the rotoscope guy in a behind-the-scenes clip.
Would you like to be our friend?
Whoa! What the fuck, dude?
And the clip of the actual episode is playing in the corner, which is entirely uncensored. So, that's basically it. Why isn't Adult Swim releasing a uncensored cut if they have it, which I'd assume they do? Who knows? The fifth smiling friend. This entry isn't referring to the fact there was meant to be a fifth smiling friend, that comes later, but this is instead referring to the running joke of the fifth smiling friend. It starts with Smallmy, who is made the fifth smiling friend by electoral vote in the episode Shrimp's Odyssey, before his death. Then we have Jumbo, who Charlie meets at the boss's wedding, which I mean, who is Jumbo? He's at the wedding, so Mr. Boss must know him, right? Or is it Brittany who knows him? Anyway, Charlie's drunk and he thinks Jumbo is really cool and wants him as the fifth smiling friend. Pim doesn't really like this idea. And then in the magical red jewel, aka Tyler Gets Fired, Tyler Tyler, who is a green screened in guy, is fired from his role as the 5th smiling friend. He wasn't seen before or after this episode, and this is a pretty funny bit. So yeah, can't wait to see who the new 5th smiling friends could be in future seasons. Ages. The ages of some of the characters have been confirmed. The obvious one is Glep, who is shown to be 1695 years old in Mr. President. Then Zach and Michael have confirmed that Charlie is 27, Pim is in his early 30s and like 33 years old, and Allan is 24. This was all in the commentary for episode 6, Enchanted Forest. Thanks to the in-living memory card, we also know Smallmoo would be 39 if it wasn't for his passing at age 36. Fun Twins are from Spamtopia. So the Fun Twins appeared back in the season 1 episode Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty as one of Salty's mascots. They're these two hyper colourful little guys who speak in a language which Charlie can't seem to understand, however Pim can. So with this in mind, if you watch the episode The Magical Red Jewel, aka Tyler Gets Fired, then go back and watch Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty, you'll notice that the Fun Twins share many similarities with the Spamtopians, and Pim speaks Spanish and can understand them. Charlie doesn't speak Spanish and couldn't understand them, so all evidence basically points towards these two being from Spamtopia. I Feel Fantastic. I Feel Fantastic is an old creepy YouTube video originally created in 2004, then later posted to the site. It features a homemade animatronic named Tora the Android singing a song called I Feel Fantastic in an eerie robotic voice. This video is creepy because the robot's human, but not human enough. It's in that uncanny valley, and the room is just eerie too. The reason this is here was mentioned earlier, but the animatronic from the video Tara is featured in The Boss Finds Love, as Charlie is holding on to her for his uncle who is in the hospital. Side note, but Tara the Android is actually quite an impressive creation, being an animatronic that was homemade in like 2004. Pennsylvania. So it's very likely that Smiling Friends takes place in Pennsylvania, and there's a lot of evidence to back this up. So first up, in Mr. President, President Jimble campaigns in Pennsylvania, which isn't necessarily concrete since they could travel anywhere, they had a jet. But also, in the news report later in the episode, the state they're waiting for votes from is Pennsylvania, and when they get them, we found out Glep is the one guy whose vote elected Mr. Frog. Then this information is put on screen, and it shows he lives in Pennsylvania, and it's quite unlikely he's traveling from another state to go sit on his beanbag in the break room. Also, when Charlie is thrown back down to Earth by God and Charlie dies and doesn't come back, he appears to be thrown in the direction of Pennsylvania. Salty mascots. When Pim and Charlie visit Salty's in Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty, there's a TV screen that briefly shows a picture of Salty and all his mascots. We see lots of them in the episode, but interestingly, there's some in this picture that aren't featured in the episode. So there's this chicken nugget character who was originally going to actually feature in the episode. He would have been voiced by Lyle Raff, but ended up being cut due to being too similar to the cup and also for time. Then there's a straw character, and I mean the cup already has a straw, and there's no just cup character, so they're kind of odd. And there's also a French fry. Mip is based off Ricardo Lopez. In the episode Enchanted Forest, Pim and Charlie meet Mip on their way to go meet the princess. Mip is also going to meet the princess to deliver a gift, so the three team up. Mip is killed by Pim accidentally as he falls into a spear, but it's revealed at the end that Mip was actually an obsessed stalker, and the gift was a bomb. Mip was actually based off a real-life guy called Ricardo Lopez, who was obsessed with the Icelandic singer Björk. In 1996, Ricardo Lopez read that Björk was in a relationship with English music producer, DJ and actor Goldie. Lopez felt betrayed by this news, and felt he had to punish Björk. He began to plot his revenge on her and decided to create a letter bomb hidden inside a hollowed out book which he would mail to Björk's home. Then, on September 12, 1996, he mailed the letter bomb. Later the same day, Lopez would take his own life. Following this, a foul odor was noticed coming from his apartment. 4 days later, police entered the property and his corpse was discovered, along with the plot to punish Björk. The package, which was now in London, was intercepted by police where it was safely detonated, meaning Björk ended up completely safe. So, the similarities between this and Mip are clear, although Mip dies accidentally, at least as far as we're concerned. We don't know what goes on in his head. He could have probably moved out the way. He's also been mentioned in the past on Oni Plays. Goblin Caught on Tape origin. If you've watched to the end of a Smiling Friends episode in the past, you'll have seen one of the production companies is called Goblin Caught on Tape. This company is actually named after those types of videos Chills made, of creatures being caught on tape, that Zach is a fan of somewhat and has discussed in the past. Charlie's drinking problem. Something you'll notice throughout season 2 of Smiling Friends is that Charlie drinks quite a lot. There's the obvious example where in the episode The Boss Finds Love, Charlie gets super drunk at Mr. Boss's wedding, then the next day comes in feeling like he's gonna puke and says that he can't keep doing this to himself and that something's gotta change. Charlie is also seen drinking at the beach in season 2 episode 8 and at a bar in season 2 episode 7. along with the alien party in Season 2, Episode 6. Russian Homunculus. In the episode Brother's Egg, when Pim and Charlie first meet Professor Psychotic, he is attempting to create a homunculus from an egg. When his experiment fails and this little worm creature pops out and then shrivels up, he crushes it with a copy of the God Delusion, which is a bug. This is a reference to an old YouTube video titled Homunculus 2, which was uploaded by the channel
Как сделать?
who has many videos attempting to create a homunculi on March 1st, 2016. In this video, a Russian man is attempting to create a homunculus from an egg and a little worm pops out, which he crushes with a Russian to Chinese dictionary.
Любопытно. Блять!
So there's a very clear connection here. And again, Zach has brought up this video in the past. On top of this, back in the episode The Boss Finds Love, when Charlie is watching Daniel the Demon Slayer, in the recommended is a video entitled Homunculus-Egg DNA Experiment number 7. And looking at the hands, this was a video uploaded by Professor Psychotic. So this is a very clear reference to those videos. Mr. Peanut killed Charlie's grandma. In the episode Frowning Friends, Mr. Boss has a meeting with 3 people, one of which is this little guy who states that he had been filling his peanuts with toxic pesticides, and that when it was discovered he did a peanut jig on the Dick Cavett show. This guy is a parody of the Planters mascot, Mr. Peanut, as evidenced by the way he dresses and the fact he sells peanuts. And in episode 3, Shrimp's Odyssey, Charlie actually states that his grandma passed on from eating a peanut. Now, it'd be quite difficult to die from just eating a peanut, and he didn't say she choked on it, just that she ate it, but she would likely die if the peanut was filled with toxic pesticides, and we know that Mr. Peanut here did fill his peanuts with toxic pesticides, so it's very likely that Mr. Peanut caused the death of Charlie's grandma. Wiki. The center is referring to the Smiling Friends fandom wiki, which is a wiki dedicated to information about Smiling Friends. It has 256 pages as of writing this and lots of information. Bushworld Adventures. Bushworld Adventures is an Australian Rick and Morty parody created by Michael Cusack that aired on Adult Swim April 1st, 2018, for their April Fool's Day prank that year. It actually aired on repeat for an hour, and the entire thing is available on Adult Swim's YouTube channel for free, or you can also buy it on YouTube if you really want to for some reason. Smiley Face. This smiley face is the logo for Smiling Friends. It's their building and it's on their car. But Smiling Friends isn't the first appearance of this specific smiley face, as Michael Cusack has been using it for many years. Firstly, it's his channel profile picture, and also it appears in the intro for Bushworld Adventures briefly. Also, it appears in Michael's old animations, like Question for Ted 2, where this character's head is the smiley face. Hellbenders. Before Smiling Friends existed, Zach Hadel, along with Chris O'Neill, made a Flash animation series called Hellbenders, which centered around 2 guys named Chris and Zach, who are voiced by the actual Chris and Zach, who go about their lives accidentally committing or being part of horrible acts. Hellbenders was pitched to Adult Swim, but was rejected due to the fact that Adult Swim already had 2 big shows centered around hell, being Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell and Mr. Pickles. A pilot for the show was leaked online and can be viewed on YouTube and archive.org. Turn on the TV. In the episode Mr. President, often President Jimble sends out an emergency alert to say he's going to give everyone $1 billion and then says, actually no I'm not. Charlie tells Pim to turn on the TV, it doesn't matter what channel.
Dude, check the news. It doesn't matter what channel.
This line is very similar to a popular Only Plays bit in which Zach says,
Lyle, wake up! You gotta wake up, please!
Lyle, turn on the TV! They hit the Pentagon! They hit the fucking Pentagon!
Then later,
turn on TV, it doesn't matter what channel.
This is probably what inspired this line in the episode, Alternate Political Timeline. Smiling Friends appears to take place in a different political timeline to the real world. In the episode Mr. President, Pim states that President Ross Perot won re-election in 1996 in a major upset. However, in the real world, this didn't happen, which suggests that Smiling Friends takes place in an alternate timeline to the real world, where this was actually a result. Also, because Mr. Frog never became president in our world. And there we go, that is layer 3 complete. Layer 4, here we come.
I love kids, Charlie! I love kids!
Chris Chan. I don't know how to introduce Chris Chan. The lore there is like, there's a lot of it, okay? There's an 80+ part docuseries about his life, so yeah. But to keep it short, Chris Chan is a lolcow who has been trolled on the internet for over a decade now. Chris Chan has been mentioned many times on Only Plays in the past, and it was revealed that Zach and Michael originally wanted Chris to voice the grease puddle in Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty, but they couldn't get him due to budget reasons. They had already had the Chills cameo at this point, and if they wanted Chris Chan, they'd have to get him to voice 3 characters, and Zach states that it wouldn't be funny then. And so Harry Partridge voiced the grease puddle in a somewhat Chris Chan-esque voice in the final version.
Don't forget about me, Grace!
So yeah, please, get everything off of the internet now!
Now, Smiling Friends aired in January of 2022, and back about 5 months earlier in August 2021, Chris Chan was arrested for some pretty terrible things, to say the least. However, this didn't actually impact the Chris Chan cameo, and the only reason it was cut was due to budget reasons, as this all happened after they were considering Chris Chan as a cameo, and had decided not to. Zach and Michael discussed this on the Create Unknown podcast, and also discussed whether they would have kept it in or not if they had actually got him to do the cameo, considering, you know, this. Blue Janitor Dude. In the early stages when Zach and Michael were planning Smiling Friends, there was originally going to be 5 Smiling Friends, with the 5th one being this guy who was simply known as Blue Janitor Dude. His whole shtick was that he made things dirtier instead of cleaner. Blue Janitor Dude was actually kept for a while into production. He even made it into one eventually cut shot of the pilot, and if you look at the intro for the show, the colours each correspond to one of the main characters. Yellow is Charlie, pink is Pim, green is Glep, red is Allan, and then the blue colour was for Blue Janitor Dude. So even though he never made it into the show, his legacy still lives on via the intro and logo. AVGN. James Rolfe, also known as the Angry Video Game Nerd, or simply just AVGN, is another popular internet figure who is most notable for the Angry Video Game Nerd series, which began back in May of 2004. If you watch the credits of Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, you'll notice James Rolfe is actually credited in this episode. Seeing this, many people mistakenly thought he was actually the voice of Satan. However, this isn't actually true, as Zach voiced Satan, which we can prove by pitching his voice up.
Like, I've got 100 emails piling up on my Gmail account. There's a bunch of, like, bullshit paperwork I've got to do, which we've been putting off.
But James Rolfe is still credited in this episode, so where was he? Well, he actually appears in the scene when Charlie dies and goes to hell, briefly, as a part of this montage, for only part of a second. There he is, see? Marge Simpson. This is Marge Simpson. She is Glep's wife and can be seen in the episodes A Silly Halloween Special, Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, and Pim Finally Turns Green. Now, she shares a name with the Simpsons character Marge Simpson, but in the DVD commentary of episode 4, Zach and Michael speak about this and state that there's hundreds of people out there named Marge Simpson in the real world. So legally, there's nothing wrong with her being named Marge Simpson. And they also state that it's simply just a coincidence, since Marge is a very common first name and Simpson is a very common last name. Polybius. Polybius is an urban legend about a supposed arcade game from 1981 that appeared in places in Portland, Oregon. Apparently, the game was incredibly popular, which resulted in addictions and fights over who would play it next. And on top of this, the arcade cabinets would be visited by men in black, who are government agents dressed in black suits, who collected data from the machines. They were allegedly testing the responses to Polybius' psychoactive effects. That would already be weird, but apparently people who played Polybius would also suffer from seizures, amnesia, insomnia, night terrors, and hallucinations, which is concerning to say the least. Then around 1 month after it was released, it vanished from everywhere with no trace. Is any of this true? No, obviously not. There was no arcade machine that gave people seizures, amnesia, insomnia, night terrors and hallucinations that the government was collecting data from, and definitely not in 1981. I don't think the government could make something like this today, let alone back when video games looked like this. This is just a very famous online urban legend. Now you may be wondering what this has to do with Smiling Friends. Well, in the pilot episode Desmond's Big Day Out, when they visit Dave Land and go to the arcade, in the background you can see an arcade machine that looks identical to what the Polybius machine supposedly looked like, with the name Davebius, an obvious reference to this urban legend. It also wasn't put in there by Zach or Michael, but instead it was added by one of the background artists. Unknown Man at Funeral. During Charlie's funeral in the episode Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, after Charlie is launched down to Earth by God and brought back to life, in this shot, in the top right corner, there is a man watching them who appears to be naked, at least from what we can see. He has no pants or shoes on, so. Anyway, this is just a funny little hidden thing in the episode that you might not have noticed. Is Gwimbly Daniel Larson? So Daniel Larson is kinda like Chris Chan, he's another lolcow with tons of lore, and after the premiere of the episode Gwimbly Definitive Remastered Enhanced Extended Edition DX 4K Anniversary Director's Cut, people noticed some similarities between Gwimbly and Daniel Larson, being that they kinda sounded and also somehow kinda looked similar. Like, I see it, despite them being entirely different creatures. Now, was this intentional? Who knows, but I'd have to imagine it is to some extent. Full Pim render. When Pym becomes depressed at the end of Desmond's big day out, there's one shot of him where he is super highly detailed. And interestingly, this shot doesn't show the full picture of this highly detailed depressed Pym. However, the full image is publicly available, and this is it. I don't think I can show it uncensored on YouTube, but if you look up Pym's shorts, you can see what I can only assume is his penis. So that's an interesting detail. And this is also what confirmed that Pym has a penis. The Las Vegas Sphere. The Las Vegas Sphere is a giant spherical venue located in Las Vegas. It is absolutely massive and covered in a screen on the outside, which can be used for advertising and other things like putting a face on it. And you know what else is a big sphere? The Smiling Friends headquarters. So for part of the promotion for season 2, the Smiling Friends smiley face was shown on the Las Vegas Sphere, which is really cool that Adult Swim actually did this. There's not a lot of footage of it, but imagine walking in Las Vegas and looking up only to see just a giant Smiling Friends face. Okay, this is me from the future as I'm editing this, coming in to say I have some sad news. I don't think this is real. Okay, so first off, there's only one angle of this. Like on the entire internet, there's only one angle of the Smiling Friends face on the Las Vegas Sphere, and you'd think there'd be at least like one of her, but no. And also, the YouTube upload of this comes from a channel called Unstable Savage Productions, which is a guy who makes videos with Adobe After Effects and Premiere Pro. You can probably see where this is going, but something like this would be fairly easy to fake. And like, what's easier? Just paying to advertise on the Las Vegas Sphere? That's $450,000 a day. Or paying someone to edit it, which is relatively cheap in comparison and also pretty easy to do. So yeah, I don't think this is real. Fake episodes. This entry is referring to the many fake episodes of Smiling Friends that don't exist. Basically, since places like IMDb and the Smiling Friends fandom wiki allow anyone to add information, people lie and just make up episodes. I noticed this happened in the gap between seasons 1 and 2, with around 40 season 2 episodes being added to IMDb that just didn't exist. And this is now happening again, but for season 3. On the Smiling Friends wiki, there's 10 episodes in the season 3 section that just aren't real and have very strange plots. These aren't mentioned anywhere else and are just made up. There's also random pages for other non-existent season 3 episodes. Also, the 40 season 2 episodes from IMDb are now deleted. What's the motive for people to lie about this? I don't know. Boredom, I guess. Why not? Probably people were getting bored of waiting for new episodes, so just making up their own. Also, is this all just the same guy? I noticed that the 40 IMDb episodes from season 2 that are now delisted had pretty similar plot summaries to the ones that are currently on the Smiling Friends wiki, but I also don't know if I'll be able to find these plot summaries I'm talking about. I did take a screen recording, but I don't know if it's got the plot summaries in them. So they could just be lost to time, I guess. Inflatable location. So to promote the series back at season 1, Adult Swim put up large inflatables that looked like the Smiling Friends headquarters around parts of the US. The design is a copy of the headquarters featured in the show, and you can see Pym and Charlie's outlines inside the building, showing that they're inside. It also says Smiling Friends and Watch on HBO Max on the door, obviously because this was intended to promote the show. Early designs. So this is referring to the various early designs that exist for the show that came before the final designs we know and love today. Lots of these have been shared on the official Smiling Friends Twitter account, so I'm going to go through them. First up is an early version of the break room from 2018. The immediate first thing you'll probably notice is that the entire room is flipped. The door is now on the other side of this wall, and Glep's beanbag and the TV are on the other side of the room. Also, the fridge and the bulletin board have had their places switched. As for the actual room itself, the walls appear to be the same material, with the only change being the colour and the way it's drawn. However, the floor here is this green coloured carpet, which was changed to a checkered bluish grey and dark grey pattern for the final version. And the roof is just a solid grey colour here, whereas they have these square roof panels in the final design. Overall, I feel like this one has a more cosy vibe to it, with it having slightly more colour from the floor and also walls, but I prefer the final design, which feels more cold and kind of fits the vibe they're going for more. So any of what I said makes sense. I feel like I get what I'm saying, but I don't know if anyone else does. Comment down below if you understand what I mean. Also, what are Pym and Charlie watching here? There's slightly less differences with the next one. In fact, most people probably won't have noticed a difference between this one and the final, but the pilot's break room design is actually different to the one in the final show. I think the biggest difference is that the outlines in the original were mostly just a solid black colour, whereas in the final one, they've been changed to correspond to the colour of the object itself. Also, the final design makes the room feel a little smaller and slightly more cramped, like we see more of the side of the fridge and it's been moved forward. And if I layered the final design over the pilot design, you can see the walls are closer together, thicker and also taller, and the cupboards are thinner. But now we get into some more interesting stuff. We've got the characters themselves. You probably already noticed this, but in the 2018 break room design, we can see Allan is a lot skinnier. His limbs are much thinner, and so is his body compared to his final design. Allan's earliest design is pretty much the same as this one, only less detailed and without his blue tie. As for Glep, his pupil is bigger in the final show, and his lips or mouth or whatever these are don't seem as long. Also, in the earliest design, he had a staff and his lips were much thinner and longer. Also, he doesn't have his hat here. Anyway, Pim and Charlie have a lot more designs to go over, so let's get into them. Firstly, Pim's earliest design has him in the same clothes as the final design, and his head is thinner and has no bottom. I really don't know how to describe his head, sorry. You can see it, I assume you know what I mean. It's like an extension of his body, kind of. Also, the line art is thicker. The second made his head a circle, and his eyes are actually the same size here. His pupils are solid black dots as opposed to the scribbled circles in the final one. Also, the line art is thicker and his exposed nerve ending is shorter. Oh, not to mention he's naked here. So maybe he was meant to be like Allan and Glep and not wear clothes? I assume this was changed because if only Charlie wore clothes, it'd be a bit odd. Like, why does Charlie even bother wearing clothes if the others don't? But with Pim also wearing clothes, it's now half do and half don't, so it just makes more sense. The third one actually looks like a rougher version of the final design. And then the fourth one is basically the same as the final version, except Pim's mouth is wider and his pupils are solid black dots. And then we all know the final design. There's also 6 different options of clothes for Pim. He's wearing his same shorts in every single one, but his shirts change. Anyway, the first 2 designs are Pim in a t-shirt, with the only difference between the 2 being that his belly slightly hangs over his shorts in the second one. Then in number 3, he appears to be wearing a shirt, but unbuttoned. 4, 5, and 6 are all variations of the final design we ended up getting. 4 is the one that we got. Then 5 made his shirt long sleeve, but his sleeves have been rolled up, and he's also got a bracelet on. Then 6 is just the normal Pim that we got, but with a long sleeve shirt. As for Charlie, we have 4 clothing alts for him. First is him in a shirt and pants, and second is him in a shirt and pants, but the pants have less detail than the first design. The third gave him a jacket, and the fourth and final one gave him his iconic hoodie and hat. As for his design, all that really changed was his hair's got longer. There's also multiple early versions of the title card and theme song. Holy crap, there's a lot of words for that entry. Mip is from 1977 Hobbit. Mip's design was influenced by the design of Bilbo Baggins from the 1977 animated Hobbit movie. I mean, if you put the 2 side by side, you can clearly see the similarities. This was mentioned by Zach and Michael on the DVD commentary of the episode, and they've also mentioned it in various other places. President Glep. When we see Glep in the future, at the end of the episode Charlie dies and doesn't come back, if you look in the background of the room, you can see a framed photo of Glep sat at the desk in the Oval Office, with Marge Simpson standing next to him. So does this mean Glep becomes the president in the future? I mean, he seems like a good fit. Remember in Mr. President when everyone is pissed at Glep for voting for Mr. Frog? He says this. And I don't speak Wingon, but they understand him and completely changed their minds. Glep completely convinced a room of people that it was a good idea to vote for the guy they were against in just one sentence. He could surely convince people to vote for him, right? Russian Satellite / Frowning Friends original ending. Originally, in the episode Frowning Friends, instead of the Renaissance men killing Grim and Gnarly, it was going to be a Russian satellite that falls from space and crushes Grim and Gnarly. So originally, instead of Charlie telling Pim about how the Renaissance men were coming into town, Charlie was going to tell Pim about how a Russian satellite was falling from space. And then at the end, instead of the Renaissance men coming and shooting Grim and Gnarly, it was going to be that Russian satellite smashing into them. So it's like the same setup, but the Renaissance men just replaced the Russian satellite. The reason it ended up getting replaced was because Zach and Michael were thinking of ways to end the episode, and it was like super late. Then Zach started talking about how the Renaissance men were coming into town, to which Michael just asked, who are the Renaissance men? So this was a completely real conversation to begin with, that they then decided, wait, this should just be in the show, which is pretty neat to know that the conversation Pim and Charlie have in that episode was a real conversation that Zach and Michael actually had. Brother's Egg premiere audio. When the season 2 episode Brother's Egg originally premiered on Adult Swim, its audio mixing was kinda messed up, which made some parts quite difficult to hear. However, when the episode was eventually later released onto HBO Max, the issues with the audio mixing were fixed. Cool 3D World. Cool 3D World is a YouTube channel that uploads weird and disturbing 3D animations. Some of these have gotten tens of millions of views, so it's likely you've seen one of them. From the footage on screen, you may notice that their animation is similar to the show the Smiling Friends watch in Brother's Egg, and that's because it was actually animated by the people behind Cool 3D World. And so that concluded Layer 4. We're pretty deep in here now, so it's only going to get more obscure. Anyway, here we go, Layer 5. Some ordinary gamers. So when the season 1 episode Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back released, people began to notice that the Meep Eats delivery guy kinda looks like the YouTuber Mudahar from Some Ordinary Gamers. I'll put up a side by side, and I mean, you can definitely see the resemblance. Some people thought this character was voiced by Mudahar or was supposed to actually be Mudahar, which isn't actually true, probably because of videos like All Scene of Some Ordinary Gamer Muda in Smiling Friends, which is on 1.1 million views. So I mean, at least one person who saw that is bound to believe it's actually Mudahar. This was posted about to the Some Ordinary Gamer subreddit, and Mudahar saw the post in the video titled, "I can't post selfies anymore." He responded by saying that this wasn't even a real image from the show, and that the drawing style was a little different to the show's style, which obviously is not true. Mudahar did end up finding out this is a real part of the show, and left a comment on the previously mentioned All Scene of Some Ordinary Gamers Muda in Smiling Friends video. His comment states, "I'd say there's just a marginal resemblance." Mr. Frog in episode 1. So we know that the pilot for Smiling Friends was released about 2 years before the Mr. Frog episode, but Zach and Michael already had Mr. Frog's character designed way before that, and in the scene in the Pimling household, if you look behind Graham Nelly, you can see a rough drawing of Mr. Frog sketched onto the wall. Satan's vape. In the original version of the episode Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, both Satan and Charlie were meant to smoke a normal vape. The idea here being that both Satan and Charlie sit there and vape while playing Rust, so that Charlie sees himself in Satan and sees the error of his ways. But standards and practices are really against smoking and vaping, so despite the clear anti-vaping message, standards and practices wanted the vaping cut entirely. Zach and Michael basically said no, and the final compromise was that Satan's vape smoke is like sparkly and red, so it doesn't look realistic. Which, like, he's still vaping, this doesn't really change it, but standards and practices were happy so. As for the scene where Charlie vapes, that was replaced with him drinking an energy drink. So now Satan vapes, but Charlie doesn't, which ruins part of Charlie seeing himself in Satan, as the only similarities now are that he plays Rust and doesn't want to work. Cut to dolphin scene. In the pilot episode, Desmond's Big Day Out, there was supposed to be another scene of Pim and Charlie helping Desmond that was cut for time and because the network noted it was a bit repetitive. Since the episode is still longer than the normal episode length, there's just no more room. Basically, after the scene at Daveland, Pim and Charlie were going to go to more places, with Pim slowly becoming more and more depressed, with the next shot being them at a beach that's covered in oil and dead dolphins. Interestingly, the dead dolphin designs didn't go to waste, as in the episode Mr. Frog, when we see Mr. Frog's beautiful animal sanctuary, we can see one of the dead dolphins on the floor. Worms in episode 2. In an Only Plays video on the game Worms Reloaded, that released after the pilot of Smiling Friends but before the first season, Chris tells Zach, "Smiling Friends kicked ass," to which Zach replies, "Worms." Then, "Thanks bro." Then he says, "We're gonna put a worm in Ep 2. And well, if you watch Mr. Frog and look in his animal sanctuary, Zach kept his promise. And interestingly, there's also worms in episode 3, which would be the second new episode if you didn't count the pilot episode, as Pim accidentally eats Alan's bowl of worms for his compost. Charlie's dick censored twice. When Charlie is launched back to Earth by God at the end of Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, he is completely naked, but his dick is pixelated out. However, interestingly, originally, when they censored Charlie's dick, it wasn't censored enough, so you were still kinda able to see it. To fix this issue, they simply just put another layer of pixelation over his already censored dick, which was able to censor it enough so you couldn't see his dick at all. So yes, this does also mean they drew it uncensored, and this also means there is probably an official drawing of Charlie naked, uncensored, somewhere in the Adult Swim archive. Cut mustard joke. Originally, in Who Violently Murdered Simon S. Salty, in the scene where Mustard tells Charlie about her affair with Salty, she was supposed to suck his dick in a similar fashion to how Charlie's grandmother sucks the lollipop in episode 8. The scene would have been animated on ones, meaning Mustard would change every single frame, and if we do some quick maths, Smiling Friends is animated at 24 frames per second, and each suck would take 2 frames. She'd be sucking at the comically fast pace of 12 times a second, which would have been the joke. Unfortunately, because this was funny, standards and practices came in and made them remove it. And now in the final version, the scene shows Mustard unzipping Salty's pants and him moaning, so it's just implied but we never actually see her suck. Jason's origin. In the pilot episode, there is a scene in which Mr. Boss breastfeeds Jason, who is his 18-year-old son. This scene is very similar to a video Zach made prior to this, titled Gwimbly Art Show, which was to promote the site gwimblyartshow.com. The video features this little creature being breastfed by this guy, and putting this creature side by side with Jason, it's clear that this would go on to be adapted into the Smiling Friends bit. Also, in the video, this guy apparently had to punish him because he bit him, which is similar to how Mr. Boss says no biting in the Smiling Friends episode. Another thing to note from this video is that the little baby has a bruise on his head, similar to the one Mr. Boss has on his head in the pilot, which has led some to theorize that this baby in the show grew up to be Mr. Boss. Lucas the Magnificent. Lucas the Magnificent is a character created by Michael Cusack that is intended to be a parody of those fedora-wearing, late epic Reddit neckbeard atheists. You know the ones I'm talking about. He has a YouTube channel, a Twitter account, Instagram, and a Facebook page. He ended up getting posted onto Reddit and made fun of constantly because, well, I mean, look at some of these tweets. To be a competitive gamer, you must use your brain as if it were your sword. Quote, Lucas Magnificent, and a really epic photo. Or, this is my gospel. And he's holding a copy of the God Delusion whilst wearing a fedora. Anyway, Lucas kept tweeting about how he was going to start making a video game review series, similar to people like James Rolfe / The Angry Video Game Nerd or John Trum. He never actually ended up doing this, but he did make a video called Video Game Reviews to Come, which for whatever reason is filmed in either a bathroom or a closet. I can't actually tell, but in this video he states he wants his game review series to have an animated intro, and for this he contacted Ego Raptor and more importantly Psychic Pebbles, also known as Zach Hadel. Zach actually ended up saying, okay, I will do it, but he was lightly joking and the review series never even happened anyway. Surprisingly, it took people ages to actually realise it was a troll, and people eventually figured out it was Michael Cusack. Michael later confirmed this on an episode of the Create Unknown podcast. Michael also states on the same podcast that he retweeted a Lucas the Magnificent tweet, and then Zach, who was already following Michael because they were both YouTube animators, saw it and also didn't catch on that Lucas was a troll, then messaged Michael and was like, have you seen this Lucas the Magnificent guy? And they then just spoke about Lucas the Magnificent. So, interestingly, this troll character that Michael created ended up having a butterfly effect where Zach Hadel reached out to Michael because he retweeted something from Lucas the Magnificent, which then was one of the factors that ended up with the two becoming friends, and the two being friends led to them coming up with the idea for Smiling Friends, which led them to create this show. So it's very likely that without Michael making this character, we wouldn't have Smiling Friends. Also, as I previously mentioned, Glep can actually be seen watching one of Lucas's videos in the pilot episode. Even though Michael has come clean and stated that he was Lucas the whole time, the actual Lucas the Magnificent's accounts haven't broken character, with him even tweeting about the Smiling Friends cameo, stating things like, people are telling me I showed up in some Adult Swim cartoon called #SmilingFriends. Interesting, I will research into this. Which was tweeted the day after the episode premiered. He hasn't tweeted since 2021, with his last ever tweet also being about the cameo. Quote, I love the fact TV shows steal my likeness and put it in their promos on a stupid iPad with a green thing watching it. Real clever. Oh well, looks like I will be talking to my lawyer, smiley face. Michael responded to this on his main account saying, we asked you years ago for your permission for the clip and you said it's fine. We have it in writing, man. And then apparently Lucas blocked him. As of right now, his most recent piece of online activity was on his Instagram page in 2023. Overall, it's funny that people were actually fooled by this, and Michael did a really good job with this troll. Burnout Revenge box art. In At Allan Adventure, Allan's landlord asks Allan if he wants to smoke weed, fill our bellies with diet soda, and play Burnout Revenge for the PS2. When he asks Allan if he would like to play Burnout Revenge, he holds up a copy of the game, which is just a picture of the box art. Interestingly, however, the version in the show is different to the version that exists in the real world, as the show's version has had the EA logo removed. This is because they were given permission to use the box art and game footage by EA, as seen in the credits, but they were never given permission to use the actual EA logo, so they had to remove it. Shrimp's username. When we first see Shrimp in Shrimp's Odyssey, he's playing Mouse Quest, a game he is obsessed with, and is on level
987413.
We also see his username, which is XXXD4RK5HRimp98 XXX, or XXX Dark Shrimp 98 XXX. Interestingly, later in the Season 2 premiere episode, when Gwimbly, Allan and Pim visit the company that made the Gwimbly games, there's a TV in the background showing gameplay of Mouse Quest, which also means the guys that made the Gwimbly games went on to make the Mouse Quest games. Also, the username in the footage is Shrimp's username, meaning this is Shrimp's gameplay, which shows that he's still dedicated on that Mouse Quest grind, and it's a neat little reference back to Season 1. Dan Aykroyd. Zach and Michael have stated that they originally wanted Dan Aykroyd to play the guy in the opening and ending shots of A Silly Halloween Special, and that the role was actually written for him. Unfortunately, they weren't able to get him, and they instead got a man named Jim Noblock to play the role. President Pinhead is Patrick. President Pinhead is the ex-president in the Smiling Friends universe, who passed away from eating a bad shrimp. Now, if we look at the picture of President Pinhead, you can see part of him, and he has a pretty strong resemblance to Patrick Star from SpongeBob, having the same head shape. This isn't the only piece of evidence that President Pinhead is at least meant to be a reference to Patrick, as there is a scene in the Season 2 SpongeBob episode, Survival of the Idiots, in which Patrick states, "Who you calling Pinhead?" whilst pulling this face. This is even more similar to President Pinhead, and the fact he's saying Pinhead whilst doing this face shows that it is probably most likely a reference. Fillmore and Duncan in Season 1. Fillmore and Duncan are two members of the UFO group from the episode Charlie, Pym and Bill vs. the Alien. But interestingly, they're seen prior to this episode. In fact, way back in Season 1 Episode 4, A Silly Halloween Special, when we see the Halloween party, if you look in the back, you can see Fillmore and Duncan are at the party. It was most likely that they were invited by Pym, since as far as we're concerned, Pym is the only one who knows these two, as shown in the Season 2 episode. Since it's a Halloween party, Fillmore appears to be in a white suit and Duncan is dressed as a Superman-esque character. Glob Glow Gab Galab. The Globlo Gab Galab is a character from a Christian children's movie from 2012 titled Stravinsky and the Mysterious House. He lives in a basement filled with books because he loves books, which is important to note. He has a scene in the movie in which he sings a song, and that scene became a meme back in 2018. The reason this is on the Iceberg is because in the episode Mr. Frog, when Mr. Frog does his fan meet and greet, the store he does it in is a bookstore titled Globglow's Books, which is a clear reference to the Globlo Gab Galab, since, you know, he loves books, and Globglow is short for Globlo Gab Galab. Retard uncensored on subtitles. In the episode Mr. President, during the presidential debate, when President Gwimbly is speaking, he states,
Let's face it,
which was censored when the episode aired. Now, that makes sense, it's always censored when it airs on TV. However, strangely, when the episode was released onto HBO Max, the entire episode was uncensored, except this one line, which remained completely censored. Now, that's already pretty strange, but what's even stranger is that if you watch the episode with subtitles on, when the line is said, the word retard is uncensored on the subtitles, despite being bleeped out in the episode itself. And what's even stranger is that in the UK, it's still censored on the subtitles. Last Christmas. Last Christmas is a Christmas song released by Wham in 1984, which I'm guessing everyone watching has heard at least once. Anyway, in the episode Pym Finally Turns Green, the song used during the montage of Pym and Rotten having fun is supposedly to the tune of Last Christmas, according to the UK subtitles, which admittedly, they sound somewhat similar. I'd play it, but like copyright. Was it intentional? Potentially. These are both Christmas songs, and if you played the original over the montage, it would also probably fit. Alright, and that concludes the 5th layer. On to the 6th, I guess. The Cool Autistic Gamer 774. The Cool Autistic Gamer 774 is a YouTube channel that is theorized to be owned by Zach or Michael, or someone on the production team. Most people seem to think Zach is the one running this account, but why? If you look at the channel, on the surface it just appears to upload random clips from Smiling Friends. Well, if you actually watch them, you'll notice that the endings have been changed to add the Cool Autistic Gamer 774 into the video himself, usually saying his iconic catchphrase,
Hi, you just watched a cool cartoon clip of the Cool Autistic Gamer 774. Subscribe for more and hit a like if you liked it. Thank you.
In the early days, these weren't exactly high quality changes and really could have been done by anyone. Like how in their very first video, the logo for the channel is simply edited onto Charlie's laptop and Charlie has a smile poorly drawn onto his face. In fact, this is a running theme. Charlie seems to smile every time the Cool Autistic Gamer 774 shows up in one of these videos. But things changed with the release of the video titled Smiling Friends, Infiltrating the UFO Cult, which I'll play the ending of.
Oh, and how could I forget? The Cool Autistic Gamer 774.
Now, the animation here pretty much looks identical to the show, and Pym's voice sounds exactly like it does in the show, although slightly lower quality. And this clip was released on the 8th of June 2024, which is only 2 days after Adult Swim posted a preview for the episode that featured the original scene. So this was the first time when people were like, hey, this might be someone on the team. This level of quality was kept up for his next upload, Smiling Friends, The Earth is Flat, and the next 3 uploads after that, up until the next video of note, which is titled Smiling Friends, Jason's Demise. And this is how it ends.
Oh yeah, wow, real nice handiwork with the blow dart, the Cool Autistic Idiot 774. I swear, you'll just find any reason to use that stupid thing. I honestly don't know what Charlie sees in you, you're just a complete moron.
So this video features new dialogue from Allan that sounds identical to how Allan sounds in the show, along with 21 seconds of brand new animation that is also the same quality as the show. At this point, people are basically convinced this is someone who worked on the show. Anyway, the final upload on the channel was titled Smiling Friends, Rotten the Snowman, and this is how it ends.
Hi, you just watched a cool cartoon clip of the Cool Autistic Gamer 774. Subscribe for more and hit a like if you liked it. Thank you.
Now, This clip was posted not even an hour after the episode actually premiered, so it'd be pretty hard to do this in like half an hour. You'd have to remove Mr. Boss and also 3D animate the cool autistic gamer 774 and give Charlie his smile all in like half an hour, although it should be noted that both the shots featured in this video's ending were in the trailer for season 2 that had released all the way back in April, so there is a chance that these two shots were animated by the cool autistic gamer 774 months in advance, and then when the episode they actually came from released, they were just edited in. That was the last video on the channel, but they have streamed 3 times since, being a Minecraft stream, a Snake stream, and a Roblox stream. Will we ever know who was truly behind the channel? I don't know, but it seems very likely to be someone on the team, just because of the quality. This is something Zach would do, and we already know Michael would do some elaborate thing like this because of the whole Lucas the Magnificent thing. Cut Simpsons reference. In the episode Charlie dies and doesn't come back, as Charlie was walking past all these heads, this guy was supposed to say, "Don't forget, you're here forever," to Charlie, who would respond with, "You stole that from The Simpsons, I literally just watched that episode last night." The line came from the season 6 Simpsons episode, and Maggie makes 3. This was changed to this in the final version.
I'm sorry, I couldn't think of anything to say.
Nah, there's no pressure, man. It's all good. You didn't have to say anything.
Because Zach and Michael thought that not many people would actually understand what they were referencing specifically. Also, I just realised this whilst editing, but the 3rd episode of Smiling Friends is called Shrimp's Odyssey, and the 3rd episode of The Simpsons is called Homer's Odyssey. Was this an intentional reference? I mean, probably, it seems like it. E4. E4 is a UK television channel owned by the Channel 4 Television Corporation, who also own the channels Channel 4, Film 4, More 4, 4/7, and E4 Extra. In the UK, Adult Swim isn't a Cartoon Network block, and instead, Adult Swim originals are licensed to the Channel 4 Television Corporation, who make them available on their free streaming service, Channel 4, named after the original TV channel of the same name. They also air them on E4 and E4 Extra, so since Smiling Friends is an Adult Swim original, new Season 2 episodes premiered on E4 and were made available on the Channel 4 streaming service. Okay, so I was getting a screenshot of the Smiling Friends episodes on Channel 4, but like, look at this description. Who the fuck is Zongo? Okay, so it says Pim, Charlie, Zongo, Allan, and Glep. Who's Zongo? This is like, I didn't mention it in the 5th Smiling Friends thing because I didn't know Zongo was a 5th Smiling Friend candidate, but they're here. I haven't seen them mentioned anywhere else, but they're here. They're in the description on Channel 4. Which means Smiling Friends is actually free to watch in the UK, at least with ads. If you want it ad-free, which let's face it, most people probably do, then it's $3.99 a month or $39.99 a year. Also, interestingly, as of recently, Smiling Friends episodes have begun airing very frequently on E4 Extra, starting at around midnight to 3 AM. I was actually able to watch these live, and here's some footage from that. They're airing it lots as of now. They've had like 30 episodes in a week, which is pretty mental for a show with 17 episodes. As for whether or not they will continue to air it in this time slot regularly, there's no way of knowing as of right now, since they've only just started doing this as of like a week ago. But hey, if you're watching this in the future, Google it I guess, or check the comments. Hopefully someone comments it in the future. Industrial Society and its Future. Industrial Society and its Future is the title of an essay written by Ted Kaczynski. I'm sorry for mispronouncing that. Wait, I'm not fucking sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. This guy killed 3 people. Also known as the Unabomber. Ted, last name, mailed bombs to people he believed were advancing modern technology and ended up killing 3 people and injuring 23 others. He would be arrested in 1996 and pleaded guilty to all charges in 1998. He would later die in prison on June 10th, 2023. Anyway, this is on the iceberg because in the season 2 episode Mr. President, when Charlie shows Pim Mr. Frog's plan to fix the economy, we can see it is titled Industrial Society and its Future. If I had a nickel for every time a real person who mailed a bomb to someone influenced a Smiling Friends bit, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. Also, whilst Mip the character is seemingly based off of Ricardo Lopez, the bomb from the end of that episode appears to have been influenced by the Unabomber, as is confirmed from the episode's commentary, which I'll play a snippet from now.
The bomb right there is based off of our imagination and no real bombs.
Yep.
Nobody who ever wrote a book or a manifesto.
No, that's just from our creative First Amendment brains. And
we do have opinions on the Industrial Revolution, but we're not going to get into it here.
So, yeah. Episode 3 cut murder audio. In Shrimp's Odyssey, when Pim and Charlie are going to Shrimp's apartment, you can see a man being killed in the hallway. In the actual episode, this is just a background gag that was never acknowledged, but in the episode's commentary, it was revealed that originally Pim and Charlie would acknowledge it, as Pim would say, "Should we help that guy?" And Charlie would respond with, "I wouldn't worry about it, it's not our problem." I think cutting this is a good change, as it's funny how they just casually walk past this without acknowledging it. Spanish Green Goblin. The scene in the episode Frowning Friends, in which Mr. Boss goes crazy, is a parody of the scene with Norman Osborn / the Green Goblin from the 2002 Spider-Man movie. And interestingly, in the Spanish dub of Smiling Friends, Mr. Boss is voiced by Jesse Conde, who also voices the Green Goblin in the Spanish dub for the 2002 Spider-Man movie, meaning he did the original scene and also the parody in Smiling Friends. Fun Twins are YouTubers. In the episode Mr. Frog, when the YouTube video showing Mr. Frog's return is shown, if you look to the right at the recommended videos, you can see that the channel _FunTwins uploaded a video called "The Government is Lying to All of You, Part 17. The Fun Twins later appear in episode 5, so it's interesting they're mentioned here, and also that they have a YouTube channel. But they're not the only character with a YouTube channel, as Professor Psychotic also has a channel that I previously mentioned, which can be seen in The Boss Finds Love, but also Smallmoo has a channel called Smallmoo5. In Mr. Frog, in the same recommended section, just above the Fun Twins, you can see Smallmoo uploaded a video called "I Was Robbed in Paris," which is 10 minutes and 1 second long. Likely a reference to how in the past, a YouTube video would have to be at least 10 minutes long to get mid-roll ads, and so many YouTubers would stretch their video out to be exactly 10 minutes and 1 second long for that extra money. Mr. Frog was the first character. Mr. Frog was the first Smiling Friends character to be drawn, before Zach and Michael had even thought of Pim, Charlie, or Smiling Friends as a whole. It was as they were trying to think of what the show was going to be. Michael drew Mr. Frog and the little yellow guy who wasn't meant to be a bug, but then Zach said, is that a bug? And asked him to draw legs and wings on him. Then Michael started going, "Hello, I'm Mr. Frog, I eat the bug." And thus, Mr. Frog was born. Mr. Frog was meant to be a show. This is sort of a follow-up entry to the Mr. Frog was the first character entry. So I mentioned that when Zach and Michael had created Mr. Frog, it was as they were trying to think of what the show could be. And they were just like, oh okay, this will be the show. Like they were going to just pitch a Mr. Frog show as the show they were making. But they were told by Adam Purloin that you would have to be drunk or high to like that, and that it was a bad idea. They were already like, this can't be a show, come on. So they scrapped that and took the joke that Mr. Frog was too stupid to be its own show and put it in Smiling Friends as a show. So the joke is that it's funny that this is a show in Smiling Friends, but we could have at one point actually gotten this as a show. Warner TV Next. Warner TV Next is a French television channel owned by Warner Bros. Discovery. It replaced the Toonami channel in 2023 and is where Adult Swim content airs in France. So is where Smiling Friends episodes air in France. Warner TV Comedy. Warner TV Comedy is once again another TV channel. This time it airs in Germany and is where Smiling Friends episodes air in Germany. Leaked Season 2 clip. Before we had seen any footage of the second season, it was revealed in September 2023 that we would be getting some information about it at New York City Comic Con 2023, at Adult Swim's A First Look at New and Returning Series panel. And so, in October of 2023, when the event finally rolled around, they showed a rough 2.5 minute unfinished clip from the episode Charlie, Pim and Bill vs. the Alien. The clip has lots of the animation done, but there's no colour for most of it, and the backgrounds aren't finished. However, one of the fully animated things is Duncan's puke, so it's good to know they had their priorities straight. Of course, when this was being shown, people filmed it and uploaded it online, which is how we're seeing this now. And this was the very first clip of Season 2 that the public ever saw. Also at this event, they announced the release date for the second season, which was 2024. Carly Fiorina song. So Carly Fiorina, who is this woman, sang a song at a Ted Cruz rally back in 2016. The song was targeted at his daughters and, well, I'll just play a clip.
I know two girls that I just adore. I'm so happy I can see them more. 'Cause we travel on the bus.
Kinda cringe.
So you'll probably immediately notice that this sounds remarkably similar to what Mr. Boss sings to the Smiling Friends at the end of The Boss Finds Love.
I know 4 employees that I just adore. I'm so happy I can see them more.
It is pretty clear that this is what inspired that scene in Smiling Friends. And there we go, that was layer 6. Now we're on to layer 7.
What do you want to do? Oh, fuck! That's what you get when you try to touch me.
The Last Resort. The Lost Resort is a animatic fan-made episode of Smiling Friends which was uploaded by Spellcaster Media in the gap between the pilot and season 1. To summarise, the plot follows Charlie and Pim, who is actually still depressed like he was at the end of the pilot, going to a mental wellness resort to help people smile. Meanwhile, Allan is real tired, so goes to the store with Glep and gets these caffeine things. That's all I'll say, you know, no spoilers, but other stuff does happen, just watch it. Charlie's future wife is the boss's masseuse. When we see Pim's vision of his happy potential life with Jennifer in Shrimp's Odyssey, during the scene where they're watching one of their kids get married to who appears to be the rotoscope guy from the pilot and Halloween special, or maybe it's his kid, we can see a much older Charlie sat holding hands with this woman, who we can assume is his wife now, since they're holding hands and she has a ring, although Charlie doesn't. Interestingly, this is the same woman who can be seen massaging the boss in episode 5, so why does Pim's future vision involve Charlie burying her? And also, why doesn't she age? Well, the most likely explanation is that they just reused her character here as Charlie's wife instead of drawing a brand new one because most people won't notice. But also, Charlie has a girlfriend, so why doesn't Pim think they'll be together at his kid's wedding? Why does Pim think they're gonna break up? Comic Sans logo. Originally, the Smiling Friends logo that appears at the start of every episode, along with various other places, was meant to be written in Comic Sans. However, they couldn't get the rights to use the font, and instead they just drew the words Smiling Friends in the way we see it now. Season 2 trailer music. When the trailer for Season 2 of Smiling Friends dropped on the Adult Swim YouTube channel, it featured the song You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates. However, if you go to it now, the music is just generic stock music. This change happened around June, and the reason for this change could be that Hall & Oates disbanded and had a dispute over who has the rights to the music, and because of this, Adult Swim might have lost the license to the music for the trailer and thus had to change it. Little Helpers. Little Helpers is the earliest known version of what would eventually become Smiling Friends. It was conceived by Zach and Michael in early 2017, and we have a few concept images for this original idea. So this early one has an early version of the early version of Mr. Boss, and then these silly little critters. Notably, the one on the left appears to have a hat and 3 hairs, much like Charlie. Looking at the poster, this guy appears to be an early version of Mr. Boss, and this appears to be Jason. Then along the bottom appear to be the titular Little Helpers themselves. So we have a woman here with no name who appears to looks similar to Zoe, then this is Gwimbly, and this is Mike, and finally, a blue guy. These characters were supposed to work at a hotline for unhappy people and help them, hence the name, Little Helpers, which is pretty much the final show's premise, except they're now the Smiling Friends and the world and characters appear to be totally different. Pim's army brother. In the scene in the pilot episode where Charlie, Pim and Desmond visit the Pimling household, we can see a picture of Pim's unnamed brother who appears to be in the army hanging on the wall. According to Zach, Pim's brother is apparently fighting in Afghanistan, which would explain why he's not present at the household. Hidden Demon in episode 1. In the commentary of Desmond's Big Day Out, Zach and Michael bring up the fact that a giant sleep paralysis demon was hidden in the background of Desmond's house at a very low opacity, like 10%, which apparently no one actually noticed. And this is following on from the fact Zach also hid demons in Hellbenders, which no one noticed either. And if you actually go back and look at the episode, you can see it in the background as they walk through Desmond's hallway. See, it's there. Cacodemon in Hell. In the episode Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, as we see the montage of Charlie walking through hell to find Satan, we briefly see a creature that very closely resembles a cacodemon from the Doom series. This is probably an intentional little reference. Pim was originally going to hell. In the final version of Charlie Dies and Doesn't Come Back, Charlie is the one who dies and goes to hell. However, it was revealed by Michael Cusack at a San Diego Comic-Con 2022 panel that the original idea was to have Pim be the one to die and go to hell. This was revealed when a fan asked if Pim had died, would he have gone to heaven? It was changed because Charlie was kinda lazy and he gets taught a lesson in the episode by seeing how he is similar to Satan, who is also lazy, and that makes him realise, oh wow, that's how I am, and he is given a second chance to redeem himself. Whereas Pim has been shown to enjoy working and is always a happy little guy, so there's no real learning curve for him. Our Allan Adventure Award. The Season 2 episode, Our Allan Adventure, was nominated for an award at Annecy Festival 2024. Also, the artwork used on the Annecy Festival Our Allan Adventure page appears to be some sort of artwork for the episode Mr. Frog. This artwork's interesting because I couldn't find it anywhere else, which would imply it's made specifically for this. But also, then why wouldn't they make it specifically about the nominated episode? Maybe it was made ages ago for Mr. Frog, but just sat in a file somewhere until someone was like, let's use it for this. Latin text is pop songs. In the episode The Boss Finds Love, the book Pim reads about the Filia Diabolus demon is written in Latin. So, what does it actually say? Well, it doesn't say what Pim reads, and instead, all the text in the book is lyrics to pop songs. Specifically, What Took You So Long by Emma Bunton, and Can't Get You Out My Head by Kylie Minogue. Brendan Caulfield. Brendan Caulfield is a composer who makes lots of music for Smiling Friends. He did the opening theme, the Charlie the Hero song, and many others. Anyway, this entry is referring to his YouTube channel, which I mean, since you're 90 minutes into a video about Smiling Friends, I'm going to take a wild guess and say you'd enjoy his content. He uploads the music from the show and also behind the scenes content like the evolution of the opening theme. Or the recording of Charlie the Hero. Also, this guy, whose name I'm not saying again, in the In Living Memory card is actually an edited picture of Brendan Caulfield. Wow, that was layer 7, and so we are now on to our final layer of this iceberg.
I just wanted my cheese.
UK subtitles character names. The UK subtitles for Smiling Friends seem to mess up the character names quite a lot, like how Glep is referred to as Fleb in the pilot, on the YouTube version, then on the Channel 4 version. Pim is Jim in The Boss Finds Love, and Charlie is mistaken for Allan during a scene in the episode Mr. President. The reason for this is probably because the person writing the subtitles misheard or got the names of the characters mixed up, although I still find it odd that there's 3 separate versions of the English subtitles for 2 different countries, and 3 separate services. Like they're all in English, so why are they different? It's probably because Channel 4 likely writes their own subtitles for the series and aren't given them by Adult Swim. This is also actually quite a common thing. This happens for other shows, like Doctor Who in the UK is on BBC iPlayer, and the subtitles are different to the ones on HBO Max, which I've seen people post about being less accurate than the BBC ones. As for YouTube, I have no idea why there's a different set of subtitles for that specifically, and also I have no idea who writes them. Glep's eye in episode 4. When Pim runs into the Halloween party in A Silly Halloween Special, as the forest demon is being burnt alive, if you look at Glep, you may notice that his eye appears to have a white box around it. This isn't seen anywhere else in the episode, and is likely a mistake that no one noticed before release, and hell, I don't think anyone even noticed after release, but it is there. The war. There is a war going on in the Smiling Friends universe. We see footage of an attack in the episode Mr. President, which also reveals it seemingly started because of Mr. Blingo, who is the Prime Minister of Blingoston. So this tells us that Blingoston is seemingly invading other countries. We just don't know which ones or why. We do also know that Mr. Blingo has successfully wiped an entire race of people off the planet, thanks to Charlie.
Dude, I don't know anything about politics, and even I know he's bad. He wiped a whole fucking race of people off the face of the planet.
Also, in Brother's Egg, Allan wants to watch the updates on the war.
Where's the remote? I want to watch the updates on the war.
Which confirms that there is a war going on. Also, in the episode The Boss Finds Love, in Charlie's recommended section on YouTube, there is a video called The Critter War Every Day, which is like those videos that detail what happens in a war every day. We don't know if this is referring to the same war or a war that has previously happened, but some shit is going down in the Smiling Friends universe and also has gone down in the Smiling Friends universe in the past. And that is it. That is the entire Smiling Friends iceberg explained. If you did enjoy, which I mean you were at the end of like a 90-minute video, so you probably did, make sure to like and subscribe, and also check out my other Smiling Friends content. Also watch Our Stupid School, it's a cartoon I made and I'm in. The Spanish dub is out now, which I mean you watched this entire video in English, but still.
Jesus Christ, what is that? What is that?
I don't know.
Allan, grab it. Grab it.
I'm not gonna grab that.
Grab it now.
You grab it.
Get it now.